Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sumati from the Department of Biochemistry, Biotechnology and Bioinformatics of National University for Women. You are here to watch the module on the topic protein synthesis under the nutritional biochemistry paper. You would have studied in the earlier modules about the structure and classification of amino acids and proteins, and we are now going to see a very important concept of biochemistry, namely the protein synthesis. You are all aware that proteins, which are the building blocks of the body, are very essential for body functions and are essential to maintain the homeostasis of the body. The building blocks of proteins are amino acids. In this module, we will discuss the various steps involved in the synthesis of these proteins. We are aware of the fact that in the nucleotide sequence of the mRNA molecule, code words exist for each amino acid. This is referred to as the genetic code. The adapter molecules that translate the code words into amino acid sequence of a protein are called the tRNA molecules. The cell possesses the machinery necessary to translate information from the nucleotide sequence of a mRNA into the sequence of amino acids of the corresponding specific protein, and this process is called translation. So, the objectives of this module is to give you an overview of the process of protein synthesis. So, once you view this module, you will be able to understand the main structural features of ribosomes, the organelles involved in protein synthesis, and understand the steps involved in protein synthesis, that is, both translation and transcription. To know the various factors that participate in the regulation of protein synthesis, and to get to know how the protein synthesis is regulated. First, let us see the structure of the organelle involved in protein synthesis, namely the ribosomes. So, the ribosomes are the sites in a cell in which protein synthesis takes place. Cells have many ribosomes, and the exact number depends on how active a particular cell is in synthesizing the proteins. The ribosome is the molecular machine inside the cell that makes proteins from the amino acids in a process called translation. It binds to a messenger ribonucleic acid called mRNA and reads the information contained in the nucleotide sequence of the mRNA. Transfer RNAs or tRNAs containing the amino acids enter the ribosome in a special pocket or binding site called the acceptor site, referred to as A site. Once correctly bound, the ribosome can add the amino acid on the tRNA to the growing protein chain. Now let's see the structure of the ribosome. So ribosome is made up of two parts called subunits. The larger of the two subunits is where the amino acid gets added to the growing protein chain. The small subunit is where the mRNA binds and is decoded. Each of the subunit is made up of both proteins and ribonucleic acid components. The small ribosomal unit is made up of one ribosomal RNA and approximately 21 proteins in case of prokaryotes, for example in bacteria, and approximately 33 proteins in eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, the large ribosomal subunit contains two rRNAs, one large and one small one, and approximately 31 proteins. In the eukaryotes, the large subunit is composed of 3 rRNAs, one large and two small ones, and approximately 49 proteins. In eukaryotic cells, ribosomal subunits are synthesized in the nucleolus and then exported to the cytoplasm before use. Researchers have worked for many years to try to determine what the ribosome structure is at the atomic level. How are the atoms that make up the ribosome arranged in the three-dimensional space. On a gross level, the ribosome looks something like an oyster with one of the shells somewhat smaller than the other. The two subunits are joined to each other by interactions between the rRNA in one subunit and proteins in the other subunit. There are also interactions between an RNA of one subunit and an RNA of another subunit and between proteins of the two subunits. Ribosomes is made up of two subunits. So, prokaryotes have a 70S ribosome, each subunit consisting of a smaller one of 30S and large subunit of 50S. Whereas, eukaryotes have 80S ribosomes, each consisting of a smaller subunit of 40S and large subunit of 60S. The ribosomes found in the chloroplasts and mitochondria of eukaryotes consist of both large and small subunits which are bound together with proteins in 170S particle. The ribosomes share a core structure which is similar to all ribosomes despite their difference in its size. The catalytic activity of the ribosome is carried out by the RNA. The proteins reside on the surface and stabilize the structure. The picture shows the structure of the small and the large subunit. The picture shows the assembled units with the mRNA and the growing polypeptide chain. Ribosomes are complexes of rRNA molecules and proteins. Sometimes ribosomes are visible as clusters, then they are called polyribosomes. In eukaryotes, some of the ribosomes are attached to internal membranes where they synthesize the proteins that will later reside in those membranes or destined for secretion. Although only a few rRNA molecules are present in each ribosome, these molecules make up about half of the ribosomal mass. The remaining mass consists of a number of proteins, nearly 60 in prokaryotic cells and over 80 in eukaryotic cells. Within the ribosome, the RNA molecules direct the catalytic steps of protein synthesis. Now, transcription is the first step in decoding a cell's genetic information. So, during transcription, the enzymes called RNA polymerases build RNA molecules that are complementary to the portion of one strand of the DNA double helix. After the transcription of DNA to mRNA is complete, translation or reading of these mRNA will make proteins. So, now what are the minimum necessary materials for this translation to take place? The minimum necessary materials are the following: 1. Amino acids, 2. Ribosomes, each of which comprises of 2 subunits which exist as separate subunits prior to translation of mRNA and contain 2 tRNA binding sites, P site or a peptidyl site and A site or amino acid site. One more site called exit site or E site has been recognized in some ribosomes and by some workers, but this 3-site model, that is A, P and E, is still not popular. Next requirement, you need an mRNA, then tRNA of several kinds, then enzymes, that is amino acid activating system and peptide polymerase system is required. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, you will be used as an energy source. Then guanosine triphosphate, GTP, will be used for the synthesis of the peptide bonds. And many soluble protein initiation and transfer factors are essential. And various organic cations like K+, NH4+, and Mg2+ are required. Now, having seen the materials required for translation, let us move on to the steps involved. Translation involves taking the message that is in the messenger RNA and in the sense decoding the message from the language of nucleic acids to the language of proteins or polypeptides. For translation to happen, the messenger RNA goes to the cytoplasm where it is attached to a cellular structure called ribosome, whose structure we have already discussed. In addition to ribosome, another kind of RNA called tRNA carries amino acids to the mRNA when it is attached to a particular part of the ribosome's small subunit called as the binding site. A critical feature of mRNA and how it is translated is the fact that each 3 nucleotides in the mRNA is called a codon, and it is the codon that is translated. Thus, the sequence of codon corresponds to the sequence of amino acids in the polypeptide. You will see that the tRNA molecules have a set of 3 nucleotide bases at one end that are complementary to the corresponding codon. The bases on the tRNA are called as the anticodon. This is critical because anticodons make the connection between the codons and the correct amino acids that go with each codon. The mRNA molecules are single-stranded and the order of their bases are A, U, G and C. They are complementary to that in specific portions of the cell's DNA. Each mRNA dictates the order in which amino acid should be added to the growing protein chain as it is synthesized. In fact, every amino acid is represented by a 3 nucleotide sequence or codon along the mRNA molecule. For example, AGC is the mRNA codon for the amino acid serine, and UAA is the signal to stop translating a protein, also called as the stop codon. The molecules of tRNA are responsible for matching the amino acids with the appropriate codons in the mRNA. Each tRNA molecule has 2 distinct ends, one which binds to a specific amino acid and the other which binds to the corresponding mRNA codon. During translation, these tRNA carry amino acids to the ribosomes and join with their complementary codons. Then the assembled amino acids are joined together as the ribosome with its resident rRNAs moves along the mRNA molecule. The resulting protein chains can be hundreds of amino acids in length, and synthesizing these molecules requires a huge amount of chemical energy. In prokaryotic cells, transcription, that is conversion of DNA to mRNA, and translation, that is conversion of mRNA to protein, are so closely linked that translation usually begins before the transcription is complete, whereas in eukaryotic cells, the 2 processes are separated in both space and time. mRNAs are synthesized in the nucleus and proteins are later made in the cytoplasm. Now, I hope we are clear about the requirements for protein synthesis. Now let's move on to the process, that is the mechanism of protein synthesis. Protein synthesis is the most complex biochemical transformation which the cells perform, and at least 200 different proteins are required for protein synthesis itself. Both in the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, the mechanism of protein synthesis can be divided into 3 main steps: initiation, elongation and termination. First, let's see how it is initiated. The main features of initiation step are the binding of mRNA to the ribosome, selection of the initiation codon, amino acid activation, and transfer of the activated amino acid to tRNA bearing the first amino acid. In the step of elongation, there are 2 processes: joining together of 2 amino acids by peptide bond formation and moving the mRNA and the ribosomes with respect to one another so that the codon can be translated successively. In the termination stage, the complete polypeptide or protein is dissociated from the synthetic machinery and the ribosomes are released to begin another cycle of synthesis. Now, let's see the steps in detail. The role of various ribosomal proteins in the process of ribosome assembly and translation was aided by the discovery that the ribosomal subunits will self-assemble in vitro from their constituent parts. Following assembly of both the small and large subunits onto the mRNA and given the presence of charged tRNAs, protein synthesis can take place. To reiterate the process of protein synthesis, the synthesis always proceeds from the N terminus to the C terminus of the protein. The ribosome will read the mRNA in the 5' to 3' direction. Active translation occurs only on polyribosomes, which are also called as polysomes. That is, more than one ribosome can be bound to and translate a given mRNA at one time. Chain elongation occurs by sequential addition of amino acids to the C-terminal end of the ribosome bound polypeptide. Translation proceeds in an ordered process. First, accurate and efficient initiation occurs, then chain elongation, and finally accurate and efficient termination must occur. All the three processes require specific proteins, some of which are ribosome associated and some of which are separated from the ribosome may be temporarily associated with it. Moving on to the first step in protein synthesis is the activation of amino acids and formation of what is called as the aminoacyl tRNA. Let's see how the activation of amino acids take place. Activation of amino acids is carried out by a two-step process that is catalyzed by aminoacyl tRNA synthetases. Each tRNA and the amino acid it carries are recognized by the individual aminoacyl tRNA synthetases. As there are 20 amino acids, it means there exist at least 20 different aminoacyl tRNA synthetases, but there are actually at least 21 since the initiator methionine tRNA of both prokaryotes and eukaryotes is distinct from the non-initiator methionine tRNAs. Activation of amino acid is an essential step in translation. Accurate recognition of the correct amino acid as well as the correct tRNA is different for each amino acid tRNA synthetase. Since different amino acids have a different R group, the enzyme for each amino acid has different binding pocket for its specific amino acid. It is not the anticodon that determines the tRNA utilized by the synthetases. The cell has at least 20 amino acid synthetases enzymes for 20 amino acid. Each enzyme is specific and it attaches with specific amino acid without any error. Next step will be attachment of the activated amino acid to tRNA. The aminoacyl adenylate remains bound with the enzyme until it collides with the specific tRNA molecule and it is recognized by the dihydrouridine loop of the specific tRNA. Then the amino acid residue of the aminoacyl adenylate is transferred to the amino acid attachment site of the tRNA, where its carboxyl group forms a bond or linkage with the 3' hydroxyl group of the ribose of the terminal adenosine at the CCA end of the tRNA. As a result, AMP and enzyme are released and a final product, that is amino acid tRNA, is formed by the following method. So amino acid AMP, which is attached to the enzyme, will bind to the amino acid tRNA, and as a result AMP and the enzyme will be cleaved. The amino acid tRNA moves towards the site of protein synthesis, that is ribosomes with the mRNA. It is essential that the discrimination of correct amino acid and correct tRNA be made by a given synthetase prior to release of the amino acid tRNA from the enzyme. Once the product is released, there is no further way to proofread whether a given tRNA is coupled to its corresponding amino acid or not. Erroneous coupling would lead to a wrong amino acid being incorporated into the polypeptide chain. Since the discrimination of amino acid during protein synthesis comes from the recognition of the anticodon of the tRNA by the codon of the mRNA and not by the recognition of the amino acid. So, this is the step that is involved. As I told you, amino acid will combine with an ATP molecule and the reaction will be catalyzed by amino acid tRNA synthetase. As a result, the amino acid will be activated by the AMP molecule and it will be taken, that activated amino acid will be taken to the tRNA and it will be attached to the corresponding codon in the tRNA. The tRNAs serve as the adapters to translate from the language of nucleic acids to that of the proteins. Ribosomes are the factories for protein synthesis. The transfer RNAs or tRNAs just serve as adapters to align the appropriate amino acids on the mRNA templates. So, as I told you earlier, activation of amino acids requires energy in the form of ATP and occurs in a two-step reaction catalyzed by the enzyme amino acid tRNA synthetases. First, the enzyme attaches the amino acid to the alpha phosphate group of ATP with a concomitant release of pyrophosphate. This is termed as amino acyl adenylate intermediate. In the second step, the enzyme catalyzes transfer of amino acid to either to the 2' or 3' hydroxyl group of the ribose portion of the 3' terminal adenosine residue of the tRNA, generating the activated amino acyl tRNA. Although these reactions are freely reversible, the forward reaction is favored by coupled hydrolysis of the pyrophosphate. Thus, one can consider that the equivalent of 2 ATPs, 2 high energy phosphate bonds, are used to form the amino acid tRNA, but one of the high energy bonds is retained in the product. In bacteria, only formyl methionine tRNA, referred to as tRNAF, can bind to the P site on the small ribosomal subunit to initiate translation at the AUG or GUG or UUG codon. In all the three cases, the protein starts with formyl methionine. The formyl group is removed after first several amino acids have been incorporated, and in about half of the cases, the methionine is also removed. tRNAF has a different structure from tRNAM, and these differences determine their use either in initiation or elongation. Whereas in eukaryotes, the methionine tRNA is called as methionine tRNAi, is used for initiation. Although it is not formulated, the basic process is similar to that in prokaryotes. Now, once activated, the next step is initiation. An important feature of initiation of polypeptide synthesis is the use of specific initiating tRNA molecule. In prokaryotes, this tRNA molecule is acylated with a modified amino acid N-formyl methionine RNA. RNA binds to small ribosomal subunit in such a way that the initiator, that is AUG, is positioned in the precursor to the P site, that is, it is ready for the formyl methionine tRNA to recognize it. The alignment of the initiator AUG in the mRNA in the appropriate place of the ribosomal unit involves base pairing between the 3' end of the 16S rRNA and a sequence that precedes the initiator AUG in mRNA. The ribosome binding site is in the 5' untranslated region just before the initiator AUG. That site is called as the Shine-Dalgarno sequence. named after the discoverers of this sequence. It is a sequence which is purine rich. For example, a sequence stays like this: 5' AGG AG. That will pair with the pyrimidine rich 3' end of 16S rRNA, which will have base pairing 5' CCU CCU UA with a hydroxyl group at the 3' end. This base pairing will ensure the choice of the correct AUG as initiation codon as opposed to the internal AUG, which will code for methionine. This picture shows the formation of initiation complex. So tRNA is bound and it is ready for the initiation complex. So you can see that the AUG is correctly positioned at the formal methionine tRNA in case of prokaryotes and methionine tRNA in case of eukaryotes, and it is ready for the process of translation. Next process is elongation. The process of elongation, like that of initiation, requires specific non-ribosomal proteins. Elongation of polypeptides occurs in a cyclic manner such that at the end of one complete round of amino acid addition, the A site will be empty and it will be ready to accept the incoming amino acid tRNA dictated by the next codon of the mRNA. This means that not only does the incoming amino acid need to be attached to the peptide chain, but the ribosome must move down the mRNA to the next codon. The steps of translation elongation are: following initiation, the process of translation involves a continuing series of elongation steps. Each step comprises movement of mRNA through the ribosome so that the tRNA carrying the elongating polypeptide resides within a pocket of the 60S subunit termed as the P site, which is nothing but a peptide site. The elongation factor EF1 alpha carries each incoming amino acid tRNA to the A site, which is the amino acid site, depending upon the correct codon-anticodon interaction. The peptide in the P site is transferred to the amino acid in the A site through the action of ribosome activity known as peptidyl transferase. Following peptide transfer, the elongation factor EF2 induces translocation of the ribosome along with the mRNA such that the naked tRNA is temporarily within the E site, that is the ejection site of the 60S ribosomes, and the peptidyl tRNA is moved to the P site, leaving the A site empty and residing over the next codon of the mRNA. So now this process continues until a stop codon is encountered. In short, these are the steps. tRNA lands on the A site when the anticodon is matched to the complementary codon on the strand of RNA. A new peptide bond is formed between the first and second amino acid, and the first amino acid bond with methionine is broken. The original tRNA has arrived in the E site and the second has arrived in the P site. The third tRNA lands, and this process continues until it comes upon one of the stop codons, which are UAA, UAG and UGA. So this picture clearly shows the steps in the elongation that is involved. Next, we will move on to the process of termination. Like initiation and elongation, translational termination requires specific protein factors identified as releasing factors. The signals for termination are the same in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. These signals are termination codons present in the mRNA. There are three termination codons, namely UAG, UAA and UGA. So, what are the steps involved in the termination process? Translation termination occurs when a stop codon is encountered within the context of the A site of the 60S ribosomal subunit. So, here again the termination factors ERF, which binds to a GTP molecule, then stimulates the peptidyl transferase ribosome to transfer the peptide from the tRNA in the P site to water coupled with the hydrolysis of GTP to GDP and PI. The peptide is released from the ribosome along with the naked tRNA and ERF-GDP complex. The association factors then promote the dissociation of the two ribosomal subunits and the process begins again. In E. coli, the termination codons are UAA and UAG and they are recognized by releasing factors RF1, whereas RF2 recognizes the termination codons UAA and UGA. The ERF binds to the A site of the ribosome along with GTP. The binding of ERF to the ribosome stimulates the peptidyl transferase activity to transfer the peptidyl group to water instead of amino acid tRNA. The resulting uncharged tRNA left in the P site is expelled with the concomitant hydrolysis of GTP. The inactive ribosome then releases its mRNA and the 80S complex dissociates into 40S and 60S subunits ready for another round of translation. This picture shows the termination step. So as I told you, simple as reading a stop codon, either UAA, UAG or UGA. If it encounters any of these stop codons, then the process of termination begins and ribosome then releases the synthesized peptide. With this step, the process of translation is complete. Next, we move on to see the role of various antibiotics in protein synthesis. Many antibacterial agents have been isolated from fungi. Most of these are inhibitors of protein synthesis. For example, streptomycin and neomycin bind to a particular protein in the 30S portion of the ribosome and thereby prevent the binding of the tRNA methionine to the P site. Whereas the tetracyclines, they prevent binding of the charged tRNA. Linomycin and chloramphenicol inhibit the peptidyl transferase. The antibiotic erythromycin binds to the free 50S particle and prevents the formation of 70S ribosome. So this picture shows the actions of various antibiotics in the various steps involved in the process of protein synthesis. So the antibiotics which I have mentioned earlier will inhibit the different steps that are involved in the protein synthesis. So to conclude, cellular DNA contains instruction for building the various proteins the cell needs to survive. In order for a cell to manufacture these proteins, specific genes with its DNA must first be transcribed into molecules of mRNA. Then these transcripts must be translated into chains of amino acids, which later fold into a fully functional protein. Although all of the cells in a multicellular organism contain the same genetic information, the transcriptomes of different cells vary depending on the cell structure and function in the organism.